What's going on, Alabama fans? If you want the Crimson Tide to beat the hell out of South Florida this weekend, make sure you like today's video for me right now. We are trying to beat our August like numbers. Only a couple days into the month now, and I think we're off to a pretty solid start. So do not jinx it. If you want Alabama to beat South Florida this weekend, make sure you like today's video for me right now. Coming up on today's show, we are going to be breaking down the South Florida game. Coming up this weekend, it's going to be, hopefully a revenge type game for the Crimson Tide. We are also going to be talking about 5 things to watch in terms from the Alabama's perspective on that game. So that's going to be our show today. First up, previewing South Florida against the Crimson Tide. It's going to be a night game at Bryant-Denny Stadium again. No, last week against Western Kentucky, just a very, very electric atmosphere. So pat on the back to anybody that was at that game. But look, it's another big spread type of game. Bama's favored by 31 points. They were favored by a lot last year too, and we saw how that went. But you do not have a lacrosse player / walk-on wide receiver starting for you at quarterback this year. That is going to be the biggest difference in this game, in my opinion. Over-under on this game is 64. I think, considering what happened last year, there's a very good last week, Alabama has a very good shot to hit that number as well. We'll see what happens there, especially if South Florida is able to get, a couple scores on the board as well. So prediction time right now. Let me know in the comments section, what is the score going to be to Alabama versus South Florida this weekend? Let me know at the pinned comment of today's video. So week 1 for South Florida, they end up playing a team that I have never heard of, to be completely honest with you. Bethune-Cookman University. If you know where that's at, let me know in the comments section right now. Look, they go in there and, did the number on them. They beat the hell out of them, 48-3. And I'll be honest, looking at the box score, I haven't gone back and watched the game or anything like that quite yet. But just looking at the box score, South Florida didn't do anything that was super, super special. I think the one thing that really sticks out to me is their quarterback, Byron Brown, 74 rushing yards in that game. So definitely a guy who can also, take off when he has to. But I didn't think there was anything special from UCF, just strictly looking at the box score. Rushing stats for him, nobody over 100 yards. So, I think a team like this going up against Alabama's front is going to be really hard for them to run the ball at the end of the day. And really, in the first game of the season, they didn't really have anybody that was, crazy in the passing stats either. 73 yards for Yassine as well. So, Alabama's secondary in particular played really, really well last week. I think they have an opportunity. They missed some opportunities as well. Alabama's secondary did, and linebackers as well. Deontay Lawson should have had a pick 6 early in that game. So, there's nothing really, in my opinion, that South Florida has that Alabama's not going to be able to handle. Today's show is presented by Game Time. Guys, look, I use Game Time for any kind of tickets that I'm trying to get. It's the only ticketing app I use, whether it's for sports, comedy, concerts. My girlfriend is really into theater, so got to throw that in the mix every now and then as well, and Game Time has that. Game Time also has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite team or concert, anything like that, even easier. Game Time Picks has curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concert, comedy, theater, anything that needs a ticket to attend. You guys can get it on Game Time. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to the start of the event. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest prices guaranteed. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Check out GameTime.co for last-minute tickets. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. So 5 things that I want to talk about that I want to, continue to watch as Alabama takes on South Florida in the second game of the season. I want to look at Jalen Milroe throwing the ball. And I thought he looked really good in this past week's game against Western Kentucky. 7 for 9, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, another 2 on the ground as well. But we just didn't get an opportunity to really see Jalen Milroe go through his progressions, really throw the ball a whole hell of a lot in that first game. I did think he did some pretty nice things, though. When it comes to the passing depth chart, this is what we've been talking about. One of the biggest things that Jalen Milroe has to improve on are those intermediate passes. Well, he only threw 1 intermediate pass. That's anything from 10 to 19 yards, and he did complete that. So, the deep ball was still there for him. 2 deep balls to Ryan Williams. That's anything over 20 yards. And, look, Jalen Milroe was pretty solid. I thought he got through his progressions and his reads pretty quickly as well, and with some confidence. If they weren't there, he ended up taking off and that's something that I asked for too, was if those guys aren't open, just take off, man. Use your legs. This is what Kalen DeBoer said about Jalen Milroe going through his progressions, and specifically he was asked about the deep balls as well. Kalen DeBoer said that's just part of the progression. The progression took Jalen to Ryan Williams on those deep balls. That's not the beginning of the progression on the first touchdown in particular. For both of them, it was a later part of the progression, and then both of those route concepts, Jalen really worked through the read and working to the end very well. Just thinking about Jalen getting to Ryan, especially under the second touchdown, that's coming across the middle, putting it where it needed to be, confidence in his receiver. When you're running across the middle like that your quarterback's not going to put the ball in a bad spot so Ryan can just focus on the football. Another thing that I want to watch for in this game is what Elijah Pritchett is going to look like at left tackle again. We know what happened last week. Kadyn Proctor goes down with an injury before the game even started. Unfortunately, Kalen DeBoer said he's going to be week to week. Got that shoulder injury. We don't know really the severity of it. We've heard or seen reports saying that it could have been worse than it is. So, I really thought Kadyn Proctor was going to have a breakout year for Alabama this year. But Elijah Pritchett now is going to be at that left tackle position. And let's just be honest, he was not very good in the fourth quarter of last week's game, which I think really hurts these Pro Football Focus grades here for him. Gave up 1 sack, had 2 hurries, was not very good in the pass blocking game. I guess he was okay in the run blocking game, but I think really, like I said before, that first quarter really hurt Elijah Pritchett. Only had 34 snaps at left tackle, then N'Keal Betran went in, but, he's been working. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's been working more at that right tackle position this fall. Hasn't really worked at left tackle a whole lot during the fall. Obviously was the only guy there during the springtime. So, it took him a little bit of time to really get adjusted to it. But I think he did better as the game went on. At that right tackle position as well, Wilkin Formby, I thought he played really, really, really well. And it shows as well in the Pro Football Focus numbers. Run block grade could have been a little bit better. 66 is nothing to scoff at, though, in terms of their, how they do their rating system. He was really, really good in the passing game. Didn't give up a single pressure on Jalen Milroe. 83.1 pass block grade. That is just really, really solid. I don't necessarily think Wilkin Formby won the job this week, but he definitely put himself in a good spot to make that happen in the next couple of weeks. So let me know in the comments section your confidence level in Elijah Pritchett over there at that left tackle position. Scale it for me 1 to 10 in the comments section of today's video. The next guy I want to talk about is Qua Russaw and how they are going to use him coming up this week. I thought it was very interesting. The different ways that they used him last week as well was very, very good. I did not even expect Qua Russaw to, play early in that game against Western Kentucky. But we saw him out there on the first drive. Had 4 tackles in this game, 1 TFL, and 12 pressures That is absolutely insane with the amount of snaps that he had. I think he was in the 20s on total snaps. But 12 pressures is just absolutely ridiculous. I also thought he did a very good job in coverage because there were multiple times where, he didn't line up necessarily out that outside linebacker / edge rusher position. They lined him up in one of the gaps, whether that was more on the interior of the offensive line. And then they dropped him back in coverage, and I thought he did a really good job. 9 snaps, 0 targets for him. I think that, really, really shows the fact that, when he had to drop in pass coverage, he did extremely well there. I also thought Quandarius Robinson looked really good at the Wolf position. Keanu Coate, we saw him a little bit, but not, a ton in this game. So I do think Qua Russaw is definitely somebody who is going to break out for Alabama this season. And, man, he is so good. I cannot wait to really see, the entire package of what Qua Russaw can bring to the table this year. I also think we need to watch those punt returns as well. I thought Cole Adams did a very good job when he was out there on those punt returns. He had 5 return opportunities in the game against Western Kentucky for a total of 42 yards, 8.4 yards per return. I thought that was pretty solid. There were definitely times where I thought, oh man, is he going to break this one? It didn't end up breaking any, really, really long punt returns for you. But he was very sure-handed, didn't bobble anything. And at the end of the day, that's what you really want from the punt returner. I don't care if you return for 0 yards for the entire season. That might be a wild statement to say, but really, I just want you to catch those balls. Don't let them bounce, and don't bobble them, because those are those things that build up that just, man, will really make, I'm sure yours too, but my blood boil when you're fumbling punts or not catching them in the air and letting them bounce another 15, 20 yards. I thought Cole Adams did a very, very good job at, doing that for Alabama in punt returns. I will say, though, is there possibly an opportunity in this game where you get Jalen Milroe out there as well to field some punts for Alabama, just get him some opportunities? He is a very special player. He is very electric in that Alabama State Championship game. Him and Ryan Williams combined for 8 touchdowns, the only players to score touchdowns in that state championship game in high school. A very, very electric player. So let me know in the comments section, who do you want to return punts for Alabama this season? If you're comfortable with having Cole Adams do it, type A in the comments section. Or if you would like to see Jalen Milroe get an opportunity in this game, type M in the comments section as well. I also want to talk about one thing that'll drive you crazy, especially drove Nick Saban crazy a lot, are those penalties that Alabama had, especially in the first half of this game. Had 7 penalties for 59 yards against Western Kentucky. And I will say most of those penalties, I believe, came in the first half. I think you only had 1 penalty in the second half. But, man, you do not want to start off slow, especially a team like this who last year thought that they could play with you, thought that they were able to take down the big, mighty Alabama at home in the rain. Look, man, you just cannot have stupid penalties. Like a lot of the ones we saw. There was a couple holding penalties on wide receivers as well. I, kind of don't really care about those as much, to be honest with you, just because I want those wide receivers to be extremely physical. And if you get called for holding every now and then, that's not whatever. I'm honestly kind of fine with that. But, the pre-snap penalties, those need to really get taken care of, for Alabama to not get behind the chains against South Florida. Because against a team like this, that is one thing you do not want to do, is give them hope. So my score prediction for this game, I actually had it a little bit closer. I think I had like 38-13, I think, originally a couple weeks ago in our prediction video. But after watching last week, I had to change this. I think Alabama wins this one big, 52-6. They give up a couple late field goals against South Florida. Alabama's going to beat the hell out of South Florida this week.